The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Welcome to Moments of Strength. I'm your host, Mary Kaufman. On this show, we explore stories from the motherhood journey to better understand what we are carrying, building, and becoming. Every story is different, none of them are perfect, but all of them reflect the capacity and capability of mothers in real life. I'm happy you can join us for today's inspiring journey. And today's guest is Clio. Welcome, Clio.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. And we actually met through a mutual friend who was on this show a few episodes ago, Kathy. So thanks to Kathy for referring you. We had a very lovely coffee where I learned about what you're doing and what your aspirations are, and a little bit about your history and how you came to that point. And on this show, the aim really is to uplift other mothers and women. And so hopefully through your story of your life and your journey to and through motherhood, other moms can pull strategies, support, reassurance, just the idea that they're not alone in their own journey, no matter where they are in it. So I have kids who are, older, and I know that you do too, and we found some commonality there. And so, even women starting out can pull from those experiences that we have been through. So hopefully we can learn a little bit about your story today. And you can start where you want. Sometimes women like to start with how they came into the world and their childhood and go from there into their journey. And other guests like to start from where they are, and then we can kind of go back and learn how that came to be. So,
yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our talk so much. And yeah, motherhood can be so beautiful and so lonely and even isolating at times. So I'm super excited to have this opportunity to connect with other mothers. Mm-hmm. So why don't we start with the cocktail party version. So I have 4 kids.
Okay.
My oldest is mid-20s, and then the next is very early 20s, and then I have a late teen and just going into middle school age.
Okay, yes. Mm-hmm. That's a variety of things you're
is.
juggling as a mom.
It is, and for fun to share this because the birth order gets a little out of whack. My oldest was adopted as a teenager, and so sometimes when I say my firstborn, it's my second oldest.
Gotcha. We'll keep that straight.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, an adventure to become a mother, even. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Yes. So actually, my oldest came into our family the latest.
Okay, yes.
So I had 3 kids.
Oh, got you. Okay, so that's when you say firstborn is second because you're adopted.
Exactly.
Okay.
The birth order gets a little wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk a little bit about coming into motherhood.
I was in my 30s when I had my first child.
Yes.
I had never planned on having kids. I did not picture that as being part of my future. I had quite a difficult childhood, and I was just really terrified of recreating that. And so, but I met my husband. We've been married over 20 years. He's the love of my life. And we had built this beautiful, stable life that I felt comfortable bringing a child into. So, yeah, I was 33.
I was 32, so we're right there. But I think that's an important point, too, for many people, not to minimize, because everybody has an individual experience, but many people have a difficult childhood. And many of our guests have had a difficult childhood and found themselves in motherhood, and they came into it all different ways, like how you mentioned you created a stable home, and maybe you didn't even realize you were capable of doing that given what you had experienced prior. And so that's hopeful you know?
Yes.
For anybody who has experienced that or is considering going through that, I think that's hopeful.
If you would have asked me a few years before, I would have told you that it was just impossible, that was just not something that I could do. And so, yeah, I was really proud of that. I'm really proud of the family that we have built. Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting because just because of some of the factors involved, some of the parts of my story are dramatic. And when I was younger, that felt like it kind of separated me a little bit. And then as I got older and I realized that like being a human is hard. It's just challenging for everybody. And even when situations look ideal, there's something that people have struggled with, right? I think that's just part of the journey.
Absolutely.
Is not enduring obstacles, but coming up against obstacles, overcoming obstacles, having struggles. We all feel alone sometimes. We all feel different. Sometimes we all feel lonely, all of those things. It just happens to all of us, no matter what. And so that's something as I got older really helped me to feel less isolated. It was like, okay, well, these are all human experiences. We all run into this somehow.
Yeah, and so if you think about it, we arrive here with nothing, and we're like the most vulnerable baby anything. You know, we can't do anything when we arrive. And so depending on what you're coming into, I mean, you're so reliant. So you could have a terrible experience from the time you arrive. You don't have any resources or equipment. So you're right that the journey of life is difficult. It's set up that way. You are set up vulnerable from the minute you get here. And so to think, you know, I just want it to be easy, or why is this so hard? It just is, because that's the nature of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, for so long I felt like the reason that things were hard is because I was lacking something, that other people knew something I didn't, or maybe in my worst moments I felt like they had something I didn't have, right? Like just some inborn trait that I was born without that made things harder. And it really helped to get older and go, oh no, this is hard for everybody. It's not hard because I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
It's hard because it's hard. Actually, one of my mentors says, if it feels hard, it's because it is.
Yes.
And I find that so reassuring, right? I find myself thinking that sometimes, like, okay, if it feels hard, it's because it is.
Yes.
So now what do I do?
And part of what you said too, you know, as you got older, you could realize that. I think this is very critical, because I think children and teens and young adults find themselves in situations where they feel, you know, like it's unbearable. Like there isn't a way out. Like there isn't a next step, or it's just going to be hard forever. And it probably is going to be hard forever in some capacity. But you have to get older to figure that out.
Yes.
And I think the expectation that maybe it gets easier is not correct. I think you just get better at life. You know, when you run into something and you overcome it, now you've built a little strength. If you run into something and you don't overcome it, you're probably going to keep running into that until you figure out a different route, you know, or just avoid whatever that is and take a different path. But you have to get older to realize that.
Yes. Yeah, I'm 53, and if it gets easier, it hasn't happened yet. But it has gotten, I think, it's not that there's not still times where it's painful, but I think the difficulty has gotten less painful because it feels less personal. And yes, isn't it funny how pain has this capacity to change how we perceive time, right? Like when you're in pain, it's hard to ever remember a time when you weren't in pain.
Yes.
And it's hard to imagine a time when you won't be in pain.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that goes away when you get older, but you do at least have the experience of going, yeah, there's been several times when I thought, I can't make it through this. Like I can't even imagine a time when it's going to get better, and then it did get better. So yes, I think having that perspective is really, really important.
And as a mom, even if you feel like that, you have the opportunity to suspend that for a minute because you are responsible for and hopefully have some desire to care for your children. And so your pain is still there. We all know this. But if you invest in somebody else who you love or some other project that you love, or that can help suspend that a little bit. It doesn't mean the pain's not there, and it doesn't mean that you think it won't be there later. But if you look to something external that you can contribute to, even that can suspend it a little bit. I think sometimes we're so involved in our own pain and what's going on in our own heads that even connecting to something else where you can contribute can help step out of that.
Yeah, I totally agree, because pain is loud, right? Pain and fear are both very loud. They're such powerful biological signals that it's easy to have them sort of suck up our attention. And I have found the same, that when I can sort of force myself to look out of that kind of bubble, that it helps to make it feel less all-encompassing, right? It might still be the same level of painful, but it doesn't feel so dominating. It doesn't feel like it's taking over my entire life in the same way that it can if I can't look outside. And yes, motherhood can be a powerful draw out of that, because you have these other people that are counting on you, and that whose well-being, whose experience is at least as important as our own, and many times more important.
When you think about the kind of mother that you are, do you think that was there, and when you had your children, it sort of blossomed? Did you think about the kind of mother that you wanted to be? I know you said you didn't think about having kids, but then once you were going to have kids, because intentionality can play a huge role in parenting. Did you think about that? Did you feel like you were stumbling through? Was it a combination?
So both, both, right? I thought a lot about the kind of parent that I wanted to be. Something that you and I had talked about is that my mother was deeply mentally ill. Her most, if anybody's familiar with this, the most compelling diagnosis I heard was borderline personality disorder, which is very like a originally it was borderline between neurotic and psychotic. And so it's like this very volatile. It was a very scary, unstable, difficult environment to grow up in. And it was very important to me that I didn't do that. I did quickly learn, like one of my siblings would often say, like, well, you know, you're doing better than mom. I'm like, okay, but that's a really low bar. Like, I would that's not the bar that I'm setting for, right? Like, being functional, I would like to do more than be functional. And so then I quickly learned, it was like, okay, what I don't want to be is not enough. That's not enough of a direction.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was really intentional. I also had both the intention and the blessing of clinical training in marriage and family therapy, and that really helped to inform my vision of having a family, and really helped me to expand my vision of what a happy, healthy family could look like.
Did you go to school for that before you had kids?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. Yes, my poor husband met me right coming out of it. And I think I told you that I literally had this like 2-page list, because I've just done like all this marriage counseling. I'm like, okay, what, if I say infidelity, what exactly does that mean to you?
We shouldn't have confusion about that.
Exactly. So yeah, sweet man actually still married me. So that was great. So yeah, I'd actually had done all of that before having kids.
Well, it helps to be educated about things.
It does. It helped to give me an unwarranted bravery and confidence about it. I got so grateful. It helped me so much. And I'm like, I totally got this. And I was like, oh my God, I don't totally got this.
Yeah.
Like,
you have a framework.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you have a framework. But even that is helpful.
100%.
And I think, just tying back, the education we have about relationships is what we learn at home and the people that are close to us and that we witness, growing up. And so that becomes the measurement. And maybe it would be helpful if we added some, and I think there are some classes in schools, but even heavier, because what if kids understood what it was like to stay in their power, to decide from how they feel and not necessarily from, what's being imposed upon them? Or what if they learned not necessarily the minute detail of how to interact with somebody, but what functionally kind of works with humans? Maybe we should have a class on relationships, friendships, those kinds of relationships that you may run into as you get older. I think that would be so beneficial, because the only thing right now that kids have are what they're witnessing in their home and regular attendance in other places, schools, and then obviously online, which are just snippets, so they don't give you the whole story anyway.
Right.
But what you're really
and
looking
can
at
be really
the lens.
problematic at times.
Yes,
right?
for
When you're
sure.
like, I'm sure you've had these conversations where like, so that's not actually how relationships work.
Yeah.
You absolutely, that should never be happening with your partner.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to do that with your friend. Like
Yeah.
that kind of.
So it provides like a talking point
For sure.
to do that. But yeah, I think that would be beneficial, not to tell kids what they have to do, but just to inform them about kind of what typically works with human interaction.
Yes. And also, to kind of bring back some of our earlier themes here, relationships are hard.
Mm-hmm.
They're wonderful,
Right.
but they're also hard. And I still see this pervasive myth that like, well, if we love each other, it will just flow. And it's like, well, there's seasons. There's times when it flows. And there's times when the kids have been sick and nobody slept for 2 weeks. And the love of your life. I am deeply, madly, passionately in love with my husband. And when it's been one of those weeks where I haven't slept, I'm also like, if I have to hear you breathe,
Right,
I'm gonna
yeah.
lose my mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that was something I had to learn as I got older, that that's normal. It doesn't mean something is wrong. Like, you have to look at the whole thing, not just one little snippet. And no matter how much you love your husband or your kids, there are times when you struggle. There are times when any human to human contact of any kind is going to occasionally have conflict. And that's okay. You can, there are ways to handle that in a healthy way. It doesn't mean that something is wrong or that the relationship is dying or any of that.
Yeah. You think about, kids when they have friends when they're young, and if one of their friends does something they don't like, they just tell them, and then there's some kind of agreement or resolution. They figure it out. I mean, some people tell and then adults get involved and stuff like that. But for the most part on the playground, the little kids just, that hurt. Okay, do that
I
again.
didn't like it when you did that.
And then we sort of lose our voice to say that, because we start to just fall in line with maybe the expectations or what we perceive the expectations to be. But what if we could just teach that it was okay to just say, I didn't like that, or that makes me feel bad, or that made me feel good, or I like when you're around. Those kind of basic statements, even if you just said those today, they'd probably be effective in a relationship.
Especially that last one. I think that's an easy one to forget, to say to people, I like it when you're around. Things are better when you're around. I really admire you. I really respect you. For kids, that's most powerful if you can be more specific. I do try to give my kids that global feedback, but also then like, I saw how you kept working on that project you were working on, and you really worked hard to overcome that problem. And I felt really proud of you in that moment,
Yeah.
to give specific examples about, I saw this and I felt this way.
And then they learn to communicate like that. It's beautiful. So all of that you'd been through, so your childhood, and then you went to school. So did you go to school right out of high school, or?
No. I followed the typical path, and that I left this very difficult and abusive childhood and instantly went about recreating a very difficult and abusive young adulthood. And it took me a little while to sort of recognize that that was happening and get myself out of it, including some kind of very scary and dramatic moments that were so hard at the time, and I'm so grateful for them now, because I'm not sure I would have been able to pull out of that had it not sort of reached a
Been extreme,
fever
maybe.
pitch. Yeah, for sure.
So can I ask, how did you, I think that is, like you said, maybe a typical path for somebody who's had a rough 18 years. What brought you out of that, or how did you decide that?
So I left my childhood home and very quickly married someone I had dated in high school, and it was just a dumpster fire of a relationship, and I kind of knew. So I'll tell you that I was aware. I just didn't know what to do about it, and he was kind of scary, but also that felt protective. I was like, okay, well, I'm sort of trading out my threats, right? I'm choosing this one particular threat. Then I was just miserable. I'm sure he was miserable too. It was just, I was miserable. I met a woman who's still a friend of mine today, and she was one of the first people in my life that just liked me, didn't need anything from me, didn't need me to be broken, didn't need to save me. And she kind of gave me a pattern for what it felt like to just be with someone and be relaxed and happy and feel loved and feel love in return, right? And that helped me to go, that is not what's happening in my life. And I would like more of that. But I was very immature. And I did not handle that situation well. It was also, there was a lot of abuse happening in the home. And we had this this critical moment where I was like, I feel unsafe. Like, I'm concerned about my life. And I walked out the front door in shorts and nothing else.
Wow.
And I walked right to that woman's house, which was, I look back on that moment, I can't imagine how any of us got through it, but we did. And then I instantly got into a very similar relationship that culminated in me sitting and talking with this police officer. And he said, look, you're going to be leaving town on a bus or in a body bag. And I really don't want you to have to come back. I don't want to have to come back and put you in that bag. Please don't make me come back and put you in that bag. Right? And I remember sitting there, I was just filled with shame, because here it was again, right? Like I was so proud of the moment when I was like, no, I will leave this and I will make a better life. And I'm like, how did I end up? Because this was not very far apart. This was like months apart, not years. And I was filled with shame, and I was filled with rage, and I was filled with all of these things. But I also had this moment where I was like, I'm so done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I think about that moment a lot, and it comes up in my life a lot now, because particularly for people who have come from trauma, the point that I like to make to people is like, that was courage on my part.
For sure.
It was not self-worth, because I did not have that. I was years away from having that. It sure wasn't confidence. It wasn't any of those things. Or when they're like, if I could just feel this feeling, I can go to the next step. And I'm like, well, you actually can go to the next step before you feel any of those feelings, right?
Yes.
I remember so specifically, I remember having this moment where I'm like, because somebody said, you deserve better. And I was thinking, I don't feel like I do deserve better. But lots of people get bad things they don't deserve. I know I've had bad things I don't deserve. Lots of people get good things they don't deserve. Maybe I could go get a good thing that I don't deserve.
Yeah.
Now, I've moved past that, right? Like,
of course.
I don't want anybody to stay there.
Right.
The goal is not to stay there, but the point is that you can make dramatic moves to make your life, your family, all these things better before you feel worthy or confident or any of those things. So, yeah, courage is one of my favorite topics.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like those two moments, when I left the first marriage and then when I left the second relationship, were like those moments in your life that are bifurcated, right? Like I thought the first one was going to have a little different, but it was still a moment where I was like, no, I'm choosing something else.
Yeah.
And then that one, though, that was enough where I called my sister, and thank goodness she said, you know, yes, come. I know.
Oh, yeah.
Come here. So that's how I ended up in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I came with no plan. And
Yeah. But so much of this, I mean, the first time you really left was when you left your childhood home. So that's the first steps on the path. And then you're still in the same area, still the same woods, but just path. And then when you left that first relationship, I mean, some of it's survival, right? Because
Yes.
you know, yeah, and you have an instinct. And if you listen to that, then you walk those steps again on that path. So it's a little bit more worn, you know. Doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean it was the way out. It's just steps on the path. And then finally the third one is like, yeah, okay, I can see the footprints and I'll follow those, you know.
yes.
And so, and I know that you're past this and this was earlier in your life, but for people who feel like that, it's like your first attempt to leave, even if you don't, you can't beat yourself up for that. Like, you got to try again. I mean, you have to choose you. And sometimes you have to action before emotion.
Yes.
So even if you feel terrible and shaky and awful, you have to take the step for survival, for yourself, and then to get on a different trajectory.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
100%. I've kind of also become obsessed with the idea of not having to hit, you know, people like, you have to hit rock bottom. I'm like, but what if we didn't?
Oh, yeah.
What if we didn't have to have things get
Right.
quite so dramatic before we are able to make changes, right? Like, unfortunately or fortunately, pain is a very efficient teacher.
Yeah,
Right?
it will
Like,
make you
can
act.
tell, exactly. And you can tell somebody 100 times not to do something because it's going to hurt. But it only takes one time of doing it and it hurts, usually ish. Like,
Yeah.
okay, not always, but oftentimes.
Your child will point out that it didn't hurt.
Right.
The other
Or
person.
you're like, okay, but I really don't want that to get worse. But yeah.
Yeah. Or what if you started at rock bottom? What if that was it? And so just maybe your life is climbing out of that, you know, and maybe it's various paths on the ramp out of there.
Yes.
And you can't be, you know, as long as you're taking steps away, you know, that's good.
And even better when you can take steps towards, right?
Yes.
Like, I think both can be, there are times you just have to take a step away, but I think it becomes even more compelling and powerful when you have something to take a step towards, even if you're towards, like for me, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted something better. And I couldn't have articulated this at the time, but I was like, I want to feel safe. And it took me even longer to articulate, like, I want to feel powerful. I just spent so many of those years feeling powerless.
Absolutely.
Feeling like I just had to wait to see what would happen to me. I had to wait to see how people would react to me to find out what was okay. I had to wait to see what kind of mood other people would be in to find out what would be okay for me. I had to wait to find out what choices other people would make so I can make my choices around them. And it took me a very long time to realize that I get to make my choices too. I have power too. I mean, sometimes you're genuinely in a situation where your power is limited, but we always have something. And that if you can just find something where you can start to exert some of that, and then you can expand it until it's like, now I'm like, oh yeah, I drive my life.
Yes.
I don't wait. I will say something with motherhood, like one of the things I was thinking about when I started that was that, so my father was problematic in his own way. And I was the fourth of 4 children, and things had really deteriorated in many ways by the time I came along. And I was 9 years after the last
wow.
child.
Okay. Yes.
And so by this point, lots of things had started to enter crisis mode. So in addition to everything else, my parents were just kind of done parenting, I think, too.
Yeah.
And they didn't, it's not like they were acting on their own behalf because they were both uniquely bad at doing that, but they certainly weren't acting on mine.
Mm-hmm.
And when I became a mother, I thought, okay, well, the opposite of really kind of not giving up anything is giving up everything.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Right? And it took me a really long time. In fact, it took me until my children got old enough for me to start to really see how some of these like thoughts and behaviors would play out, to realize that my being the fullest, healthiest version of myself was better for my kids than my being the most exhausted, depleted. I do
Yes.
everything for everybody.
Martyrdom.
Exactly. I was just going to say a good, healthy dose of martyrdom in there too, right? Like, look at everything I've given up. And it wasn't until my kids got old enough and I was like, okay, I want you to chase your dreams. And I had enough experience at that point to realize that you can tell your kids whatever you want, but they'll model what they see you doing,
Yes.
right? It was like, oh, wait, if I want you to chase your dreams, the best way I can do that is to chase my
Yes.
dreams.
Absolutely.
I also had this moment with my oldest, and she said, this one's still a little painful. She said, I don't know if I ever want to be a mom. And she's adopted, right? And I was thinking, okay, this is something to do with her biological mother.
Right,
and I
of
was
course.
asking her about that, and she said, I can't remember her exact words, but the gist of it was this: you've given up everything to be a mom. You've given up like everything about you. And I don't know if I want to do that. And I was like,
Oh my gosh.
I just had this moment, like, I don't know what to say. And I remember I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, I don't want you to give up who you are. You're amazing. You're powerful and passionate and strong. I'm like, I don't want you to give that up to be a mother. And I'm horrified that you think
Yeah.
that I did that. I had actually started taking some steps out of it, but I could see where, from her perspective,
Sure.
that she got that. And it really helped me to be like, I need to spend time doing some things that are important for me. I need to cultivate my friendships more. I need to do these things because I don't want to model that motherhood is giving up who you are. Especially when I look at my kids, I'm like, you're amazing. I don't want you to be less of who you are because you become a parent. Like,
Right.
how could that possibly serve anybody? So that was one of those moments, you know, like what
Yeah.
we were talking about. That was one of those moments where you're like, okay.
Yeah. It's like you knew it and then she verbalized it and then it hits so hard, you know. Yeah. And you
Especially because I was so confident this one wasn't me.
yeah, you're like, I'm sure this has to do with like
I'm like, huh,
everything
for once,
before.
this isn't on me. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, it's on me.
Oops. Yeah. But I mean, that does say how much she valued watching you, you know, and understanding you enough to know that she thought you did that. So, yeah, I mean, different lenses.
Yeah, she's taught me so much about courage and strength and perseverance and all of those things. I mean, talk about difficult. She spent 11 years of her life navigating Ukrainian orphanages.
My God.
So, right? And she came out of that very, she's very tough. Like anybody, there's more to her than this. And sometimes she can appear a little more tough than she is. But she's very, she knows how to hold space. She knows how to get her needs met. She knows how to make the ask. She knows all of these things. And I have been so grateful to get to watch her and learn.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing when you're learning from your children, you know, because as a mom, you feel like you're supposed to know everything and you're supposed to teach them everything. And you should try to do that, you know, the best of your knowledge, but also be open to learn from them. I've learned many things from my kids too. And if you're open to that, it's really fascinating. And then you grow as a person too.
Yes, I think it's lovely. I think it makes motherhood so much more fun. I think that in a weird way, it was an advantage that I definitely didn't walk in thinking that I knew what I was doing. I felt there were some parts of it that I felt, like I said, some unearned confidence in there. But I also had this deep knowledge that I had so much to learn. And it was so healing and sometimes very painful for me to realize how much I had to learn from my kids. How really, what a blessing it is to watch a person find out more about who they are, right? Like my kids definitely helped me erase any of that tabula rasa old business, right? Like the children are born blank slates. Like, no. Like, I don't know how you could spend more than 30 minutes with even a baby.
Right.
And not go like, okay, each baby is unique. They already,
Yes.
they come out with some very distinct preferences and personalities, right?
Yes.
But what a privilege to get to watch these little people learn more about who they are and grow into their strengths, to see the strengths that they were born with and the strengths that they acquire as they go through. I really love being a mother. It's so hard sometimes, but overall, I really love being a mother. I just feel so blessed to get to have this deep relationship with my kids. It's painful at times because I think, like, I look back at my parents and it both makes me sad for them that they just so utterly, because they didn't have good relationships with any of their kids, so it's not like it was unique to me, right?
Sure.
It makes me sad for them because I'm like, yeah, parenting would be unbearable if you didn't have any of the good parts, which they sort of didn't by their own actions, right? And also sometimes it makes me angry because I'm like, why wasn't this enough for you to try to do something different? Why was this feedback not enough for you?
Or at the very least, even if you do everything else wrong, you didn't love, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, my mother hated me, for sure.
It's like you couldn't love me. Even if you did everything else wrong, even if you didn't know anything about providing for me or any of that, like the absence of that is probably, I think, devastating. I don't want to label it, but now that you've done it, at the very least, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I remember holding my babies and thinking, yes, I totally get being overwhelmed.
For sure.
And I completely get the moments where you're just at the end of your tether. And I think it really helps moms to know that that's normal and that we've all been there. Like, there's limits around what your actions can be when you're having those feelings.
For sure.
Like some pretty strong boundaries around that. But having the feelings is totally normal. But I also remember thinking, like, 'cause I know my mother, and I think to a large extent my father too, like, really blamed us for what was happening in their lives. I remember holding my babies and thinking, like,
right.
well, how did you get that so wrong? Like, it just, it feels very obvious to me that
it's not the baby.
it's not the baby. The baby certainly has a lot more say than I had expected, right? Like, I think in my head I still pictured they would go to bed, they would nap.
They'd be on your schedule and
any kind of schedule. My firstborn, which is why that whole birth order starts to trip me up, right? But so he was my first baby, and we had some feeding difficulties, and he barely slept for the first 18 months of his life, and it was very hard.
It's
the
very
sleep
hard.
deprivation was so hard. Like all baby, it's hard with all babies.
Well, my siblings sleep trained there, and they're younger than me, and they have kids, and they sleep trained their kids, and it worked. And I never did that with my kids, and I was awake for 20 years. That's not fair. 15 years, because I finally figured it out in the last few years. And then I watched them do that, and I'm like, I mean, could I have done that?
Right.
But I just wanted to I wanted to spend time with my kids, and it probably would have been better for them to be asleep, but I just like, what are you doing? You know, I wanted to hang out with them, and so I'm a contributor to their whatever
You know, one of the things that I really want other moms to know that I learned both through my own experience and working with families in a clinical capacity, there's so many ways to be a good mom. There's really only a few ways to be a bad mom. And it all has to do with not providing something the kids need, right?
Yes.
Like, but there's millions of ways. Like we had I know in one of our conversations we were talking about how I've worked with moms who are very regimented, very scheduled, very firm, and it was great for their families. Moms who are very relaxed, nothing like a schedule, and their families worked great too. I think so long as you can take feedback from your kids and adjust, that any of those styles can work, right? There's not, it's so, at least for me, and I've talked to a number of young mothers that I felt like get caught in this trap where you're like, if I can just find the right path, there's this one way, and if I can find the right path, then everything is easier, and everybody will be happy, and nobody will struggle, and everything will be great. And it's so much more freeing to go, like the available right paths for you are like this way. Like you can be any of those things and still make it work and have a happy family. And no matter what of those paths you take, your kids will struggle. They will struggle. They will have times when they're lonely. They will have times when they are sassy. They will have times when their heart is broken. They will have times when you think, I don't know how this is going to turn out, right? There's no path that helps us, that avoids pain.
Right, because it's life and they're human, and just like we started out talking, it is designed that way. And I think along those lines too, you know, even though I wanted to hang out with them and maybe they were tired, I've always been fully committed to them. Hands down, priority one. And like you said too, sacrificing, you know, all of myself probably came close a few times, but I always had a tether to either like a job, even if it was just part-time, or something I was pursuing, even in moments, I have 5 minutes today, so I'm going to sit and think about this thing that I would love to do down the road. I can't do it now. I should be sleeping. I've just been awake. But always try to have that kind of small tether. But in an instant would abandon all of that for the commitment to my kids. And so the commitment to them, and then understanding that we're on the same team.
I love that, yes.
It's the same team. That's an analogy, if it's a team or whatever, pod, unit, whatever you want to call it. But they're not outside of that and they're not against it. And so even when they're little and it feels like too much, or, you know, they're pushing your buttons or whatever, they're not your equal. And it is your responsibility to figure that out as the parent, not their responsibility to figure that out as a kid. And you can coach and guide and love them through that, but you have to be committed to them to want to do that. Because you can love your kids and also battle them sometimes about things, you know. So, and I think sometimes people who don't understand that commitment really battle them, like a 2-year-old you've seen in public, you know. He always does that to me. It's like, well, are you inviting that? Because as the adult,
I don't think there's no like plot against you.
He doesn't have the brain development to do that. And so back to the education piece and the relationships and like, you know, teaching kids from young, even in a formalized place like school, you may be witnessing this at home. You don't have to put a judgment on that, but like typically this is the development, this is what relationships look like.
Yes.
This is, if you're in junior high and you're taking a class about parenting, and it's like, you know, 2-year-olds, they can't think ahead what they're going to do to you. You may have little siblings, and then you get to practice that with your little siblings. I just think it should be heavier on this life experience thing. But the commitment to your kids and realizing you're all supposed to have the same aim as that unit, be on the same team, those two things alone can help you through some pretty difficult situations, I think, with your kids.
I agree. And that's one of the lovely things about having kids get older. Like, one of the things that surprised me, it has surprised me how grief is such an integral part of motherhood. It's like this constant, I feel like, actually the same mentor said, if it feels hard, it's because it is. She said, I've grieved my children for every age they ever were. And I have felt that as my kids have gotten older, right? Like every stage has such beautiful things about it. And there's also this element of like time passing and things changing and grieving how things have changed. So that's one thing I would probably teach too, is like that's completely normal, and how to manage that, right? Like, I think we could also do a better job of reminding ourselves that we have the capacity to feel multiple things, even contradictory things at once, right? Like when you love your spouse so much, but you're also angry or frustrated at your spouse, and the two things don't cancel each other out.
Right.
You can want to do something and be terrified of doing the thing at the same time. You can be excited about something and also dread it at the same time, right? You can want what's best for somebody and also just feel so frustrated and tired of trying to help them do that. Like, we have this enormous capacity to feel many things at once, and that's okay. And actually, if I was going to teach one thing, it'd probably be emotional regulation to help you kind of manage that too, to help learn. Because you know when someone, I always feel, my heart goes out to people when I see them in public and they're really struggling, especially when I can tell that they're taking something so personally, which is exactly what you're talking about, right? Or, gosh, don't you know that moment when you see a parent and you can see them aware of everybody around them, and you know they're thinking, everybody thinks I'm a terrible parent, and there's no good way to go, I'm not thinking that about you right now.
I know.
I'm thinking, oh yeah, I remember having to drag my 2-year-old kicking and screaming through a parking lot, and how hard and mortifying and exhausting that was. Like, that's all I'm thinking about right now.
I know.
This is really hard.
Yes. Actually, leaving the ballpark last night, there was a little boy who was struggling, and he was just mad, and they were leaving, and I don't know, I just came upon it when he was mad. He was probably like 7 maybe, and he was really just winding up to just throw his hat. That was going to be his thing, and he did. He was looking at his mom, you know, everybody's trying to leave, and he's looking at his mom, and she's not telling him not to do it, you know, she's probably tired, and he wound up and he threw it and he looked for reaction. And then I was just like, oh, did you drop your hat? And it just like interrupt the behavior, you know? And so it's not, and then I just looked at his mom and I'm just like, you know, it's like, I see you. Like, this is hard. You know, like.
And the kid's like, I have been setting up this moment for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then he threw it again. So it didn't deter him, but it interrupted. And so I think sometimes it's just like, we've been there, you know, this is part of it.
And it is so not funny in the moment. I know.
No, I know.
When it is you and it is your kid and you're exhausted and it's all these things are happening, it is the furthest thing from funny in the world.
No, I know.
But isn't it so great when you can get to the point later that you can see the humor in it, and you can see
the absurdity, or just whatever. Yeah.
There was I don't know what made me think of this, but years ago I was at like a little, like this craft fair, and this mother and daughter were ahead of us, and the daughter was like, can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have this? Can I have that? And I was like, no, you know, and I could see this escalating, and I could see the little girl pushing it. And then the little girl said, can I have this? And the mom said, oh, your grandfather used to, I think it was like a little train. She's like, your grandfather used to have a train just like that. And I could just watch this little girl, and you could see her little brain working. And she turned around and she went, I know, that's what I wanted.
Oh, yeah. exploit your mom and her emotions.
And I had such sympathy for that mom, and it just killed me. I think that was I think I was pregnant with my first child then, too. And, you know, learning to, being able to not take that personally. So she for obvious reasons. She did not see this in the same way that I did.
Oh,
right?
no, yeah.
But also, if she had been not taking it personally, right? The little girl, she wanted a toy. She was trying to get a toy. She was trying out all her things, right? She tried needling. She tried these things.
Yeah.
She saw her shot. She took it, and
She's
yeah.
probably done that before. It's just like the relentless until something emotional. Yeah.
Actually, that's our family. I've told this story, and my kids, every once in a while, somebody busts out with, I know, that's why I want one.
Yeah, there you go. Exploit you because it was your story, too.
Yeah, one of my kids in
quick.
particular, who's a lovely, lovely human being, but this particular child is very good at spotting the moment. You know, like when when you're just tired, and it's like, they're very good at knowing when, like, this is the moment, biding their time, knowing when the moment is. And sometimes that's annoying, and sometimes I'm like, that's a really good life skill to have. Like, biding your time and waiting for your moment is a pretty good life skill to have, too.
Yeah, because you're a victim and also you're proud of them.
Right.
You know, it's like...
Not like half of
I know I'm
motherhood
going to fall
right
for
there.
this. It's a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. Motherhood's such a crazy trip, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, too, something even after all these shows and just my own and interviews I've done and just being around moms is it would be important to think about why you're doing it. Because if you can't find that why, it's going to be much more difficult. But also, it never stops. You will do it until the end of time. And so you really have to be committed to it. It doesn't, again, get easier even as your kids are older. It's just different challenges. And now they're not under your wing, so your support looks different.
The stakes are higher.
The stakes are higher. How much you actually are going to impact or influence whatever that issue is, it's less. You're not standing there to catch them, you know. So why are you doing it? And before you do it, if you have a chance before you do it, you may ask yourself, like, if I was ever going to be a mom, why would I want to do that? Because that all will be tested for the duration of your motherhood.
Did you think it would get easier when your kids got older?
I
100% did. I thought it would.
Yeah.
And it does get physically, usually, although then, you know how teens are too. It's like when you just had it and you're exhausted and it's time to go to bed and they're like, let me ask you this deep and very important life question.
But also, if my kids do that to me, I'm like, let's do it, because I will outlast them. And so they are cautious to do that at bedtime. But your question about, you know, did I think it would get easier? I have always had a hard time projecting out life, you know. I'm just very in right now and always have been, moved a ton as a kid, and I think that contributes to it. Just that being in the military, always moving, always in a new place, always have to react to right now, friends with who's here right now, live where I am right now. And so I think there are some long-term effects of that. So, for example, I have a daughter who's graduating this week. So I'm suddenly like trying to reconcile that this week, because leading up to this, there were many other, you know, like a confirmation, my own graduation, like just things to get through. And those were the 2 week out. So that's an interesting question. Did I think it would get easier as they got older? I don't think I thought they'd get older. Yeah. Like legitimately. In theory, of course.
Moment, it doesn't feel like they will, right? Like,
yes.
I learned to not say, 'cause I remember being in the throes of toddlerhood and having mom say something like, just wait, or it gets easier, or just wait, it gets even harder, or, and it just felt so preposterous that anything would ever be different than it was in that moment.
Or if you tried to imagine them, okay, well, what about when they go to college, but they're 5? You can't, it's not a correct projection because they're 5. You don't know what they're going to, you feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so scary for them and stuff. It's like, no, they have another, 13 years before they would do that. So, yeah,
And like you and I talked about, I think something you and I shared, mine was for different reasons, but I didn't get to watch people over a long time span. ever see that really play out until we moved into the neighborhood we're in now. And this is the first time I've really watched that happen. And so if you've never watched it before, it's really hard to imagine that for you, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been able to do that now, just like you said, with my kids and kids they went to school for that maybe I haven't seen. They went to a different school within the district or something. And then I see them and it's like, that's weird. Because they didn't get left in a time capsule like the kids in my childhood. And
Yes.
so yeah, she's just graduating. And is it easier? No, but it's different because kids are autonomous and they have agency and they make their own decisions and they can drive. And so that to me is not easy because there's way too much that I don't have this illusion of control like I did when they were
Yes.
younger. And so
That shift into driving has been by far my least favorite part of motherhood.
Yeah.
It's just so viscerally terrifying.
well, the world has access, and you have no.
And they're in this vehicle and this way. Yeah, that has been teaching kids to drive.
Or just saying bye all the time. I'm
Yes.
just like,
I hope things go okay.
yeah, it's rough. So even that, look, I'm stressed out right now just thinking about that. So it doesn't get easier. But I do think we get more practiced as mothers. And I do think we have to come to terms with the fact that we don't control so many things in their lives or in our lives. And so we have to learn to channel our energy into things that we can control, things we can own,
100%.
because that's how we're going to affect change. And if we are at a stage where, we're not changing diapers, so we have a little bit of time, then what are we doing with our time now that we're getting back to being sort of an individual? Because that does happen because they drive, they leave.
Yes.
Now we're here. And so what are we doing with ourselves? And we're the same age, so what are you doing with yourself? That was a nice segue.
Oh,
Let's talk
nicely
about
done.
it. Thank
Mary.
you.
Dr. Mary. I'm so excited for you. I felt this call. So I did marriage family therapy, and then for many years I was working with an author and speaker and educator. And we didn't have these words then, but we built her brand, built her business, started a not-for-profit around the research and education around her work. And I was executive director there, and then I left to be home with my kids for a while. And as my kids have gotten older and I felt this call back, I didn't want to go back into a traditional therapist role, although I think it's amazing and there's so many good things about it, and I'm not ruling it out forever. But I remembered that I really loved working with my clients sort of past once we were past the crisis stage, right?
Yes.
And we were building towards something in their lives, right? Some sort of desire or calling or ambition that they have. And so I have built a coaching and consulting business around helping women to build whatever that is. Over time, it's gotten focused on courage and fear, because I found that like one of the things I was talking about recently is I've seen fear kill way more businesses than a lack of strategy.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter how good your strategy is if you can't consistently execute.
Yes.
And the thing that I see get in the way of consistently executing is generally some sort of fear. And if you have fear and grief mixed together, that's a really potent cocktail that can really get in the way. And so I decided to take that direction and do a coaching practice. So yeah, I really love it. I work with amazing women doing amazing things. One of my clients is an engineer, and one of her daughters is nonverbal autistic.
Okay.
And she, in her garage, because she's just amazing like that. Like I don't have these skills, and this is like magic to me. She went to her garage and she built like a sensory and communication device to use with her daughter. And then she's had other ABA therapists say, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. And so she's working on taking what she built in her garage and making it widely available. So
that's awesome.
that's been amazing to watch that process and watch her come along. People building fitness businesses, all kinds of things. It's just been really, really gratifying and really, really fun.
Well, your background is helpful too, because you have a background in therapy, so you can talk about grief. A lot of coaches, become coaches because of their life experience, not necessarily education, but you have that combination of both, which is great. So who is the client that should come to you? I mean, is it women? Is it women and men? Is it anyone? Or do you have age range? Or who should come talk to you?
Yeah, so really, I love working with people. I love working with lots of people about just about anything, but really my favorites are people that are like, I have this thing that I want. I've focused in on women because I find that it's generally harder for us. I've found that it's often hard, especially women for our age, just to say something like, I really want this thing, can feel like an impossible barrier. It feels like it is so emotionally potent for women. It can feel like a betrayal. Claiming your space, being able to resource yourself, like take time and resources for yourself, can be really hard. So I've kind of narrowed in on working with women entrepreneurs because I find that that's a place where you really need it, right? And as a relatively early stage entrepreneur myself, I really get that. I think you and I were talking about like in today's world, you really need to be visible.
Yes.
And a lot of that is social media is one of the primary options to do that. And that's amazing. And it's also absolutely terrifying and brings up all kind of stuff for all of us. So if you have something that you really want to build and you feel really stuck, I would absolutely love to help with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the way people can get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, which is cleobushland.com, Clio with an I. The rest, just like it sounds, or my Instagram handle is also Clio Bushland, and I believe that'll be on screen.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, so that's awesome. So anybody who needs help building, go to Clio's website. And since we have been talking about motherhood, and the show really is for moms and parents, I would say, we've had a lot of espoused wisdom from you today, so I appreciate that.
I hope so.
But any final words or that you want to leave with the crowd?
If you are sitting and thinking about whether you're a good mom, I can almost guarantee you that yes, you are. The moms that I've seen, and there's been very few, very, very few women that I'm like, okay, no, they just were objectively not good mothers. They were not sitting around worrying about whether they were good mothers.
Interesting.
That's not, when something has so gotten in the way that they're just not able to find any sort of way to deal with this relationship, title, whatever, it's generally also getting in the way of having the introspection and self-awareness to be like, I hope this is going okay. I talked to so many moms, and it took me a long time. They'd ask me advice and they'd ask me these questions, and it took me a long to figure out that 99% of the time what they're asking me is, am I doing okay? And so I just would like to leave the moms that are sitting there and thinking, but am I doing okay because my kid is really struggling? Or am I doing okay because I'm really struggling? Or whatever, that probably yes. That yes, you're doing okay. And there's so many paths to do this well and do this right. And then also your needs matter too. Right? Like I recently had a young mother say, should I co-sleep or should I sleep train? And I was like, what do you think is going to work best for you? Because your needs matter here too. If you're feeling so desperate, then maybe going, and there's like a huge range, right? It's not like there's just two choices. You can probably find something that works for you. But my point was like, your needs matter too. The baby's needs obviously matter. That's the focus, but your needs matter too. So that would be another message that I just long to share, because I've learned it too. Your needs Your needs matter too. And the more full and happy and healthy you are, the better it will be for your kids.
Always a better you is better for them.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
Clio. I
you.
really appreciate it. For everyone else, remember to keep your perspective, but don't be afraid to step into somebody else's like we did with Clio today and learned lots about motherhood, and I appreciate that. Be resilient, continue to show up in your pursuits, show up for your children, show up for yourself. The world needs you, and they need you. And have a goal, have a pursuit, have an aim, whether that's with your family or for yourself. It's always good to have something to look forward to down the road, so continue that. Thank you for joining us, and if you feel alone, remember there are 2 billion moms worldwide. You are not alone, and we are here for you. Thank you.